music with my bro. Willing to dig it, yes or no? Here we go on with the show, the Hear Me Out Bro Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hear Me Out Bro Podcast. Tonight we are celebrating Clark's birthday with episode 29. That's why I'm hosting again for a second week in a row. The way we're going to do our birthday episodes is we're going to cover the songs that were popular in the years that we graduated high school and what we were listening to instead. So for Clark, that was 1992. So I'll welcome Clark to the podcast.
Hey, everybody.
So last week we hit another milestone with the podcast. We hit our 200th download.
Woohoo!
We hit our 100th download on around episode 10, and we're on 29 now. So things are slowing down a little bit, but still carrying a good head of steam.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yep. And then also I'm awarding Clark with 1,100 points. I was kind of blown away last week with how many songs did not have Stuff on Fire in them.
Yep.
From the folk metal playlist.
Yeah, you should have gone with Fur instead of Fire. Would have been a lot lower score.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and this week we do not have any listener emails to read, so hopefully we'll have some for next episode.
Yeah, it was a quiet week. Maybe everybody's just like too busy listening to folk metal. They're like, where's this music been all my life?
Hopefully that's the case.
I'm going to throw away all my electronic devices.
Go live in a yurt in the woods.
A gear in the woods.
Yes, a gear in the woods. If you want to listen along to our playlist, you can find all our playlists by searching for @HMOBP on YouTube. If you want to follow us on Facebook, our group is called the HMOB. You can get notifications there for when an episode drops and any other little side quests that we present. That's the place to do it.
Yep.
And if you would like to email us with critiques, comments, or show ideas, or just say hello, you can email us at hearmeoutbropodcast@gmail.com. All lowercase, all one word. So with that, I'm going to turn the time over to Clark, and he's going to take us in the Wayback Machine to the year 1992.
Do you have a sound effect for the Wayback Machine? Or should we just do it Wayne's World style? Because if I'm not mistaken...
Wayne's World was 1992.
Yeah, February 18th, 1992.
All right. So in honor of 1992 and in honor of Wayne's World, we'll do the Wayne's World flashback for our Wayback Machine.
All right.
You ready?
All right. Here we are. Looking at the things that happened in 1992, I was going to try and set the stage. 1992 sucked. There was a lot of terrible things that happened.
Yeah, the 90s were not great.
The Rodney King riots. Yeah, a bunch of earthquakes. Pretty much the only good things were apartheid coming to an end. The European Union Treaty was signed, and George Bush Sr. puked on the Prime Minister of Japan. Those are the only good things.
That was in 92.
Yeah.
I think the Prime Minister of Japan would disagree with you on that one.
Yeah.
It's probably not like in his highlight reel.
Probably not. But yeah, I was a pimply-faced teenager and rode my bike to school every day, listening to my Discman.
Oh, you used to ride your bike to school, lock it up in the cage there?
Yeah, they did have a cage, didn't they? It was like kind of by the theater building.
Yeah, behind the music hall.
Yeah,
whatever.
I forgot about that.
Should we do a quick rundown of the top 10 Billboard hits from 1992?
Yeah, there's not going to be a whole lot of overlap from what I was listening to and what was popular at the time.
I do have one overlap on my honorable mentions.
Okay.
And it is in the top 10.
Wow. So just some of the high, in scare quotes, lights from what was popular hit songs of 1992. Achy Breaky Heart by Billy Ray Cyrus.
Oh, great song.
Let's Get Rocked by Def Leppard. Humpin' Around by Bobby Brown. Okay, these next two are kind of debatable. Friday I'm in Love by The Cure. If you're into The Cure, that's a great song. Jump Around by House of Pain.
November Rain. GNR.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Not their greatest song.
Baby Got Back, Sir Mix-a-Lot.
Okay, that's a good song.
That is a good song. My least favorite song from 1992 was...
I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston.
No, that's a good song. That's a Dolly song.
I know.
Dolly Parton song.
And I mean, Whitney did a fantastic job on that song. So
Yeah. No, mine would be Sophie B. Hawkins, Damn, I Wish I Was Your Lover.
Why don't you like that song?
Because it sucks.
Right. Fair.
Pearl Jam, Jeremy,
Ooh, I think
Guns
that
N'
might have been
Roses, and
later
Knocking
in
on
the-
Heaven's Door.
Ugh.
Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Oh,
That song's actually kind of good.
Oh. It's great when Bob Dylan or the Grateful Dead do it. Or
I
Jerry
thought
Garcia
GNR
Band.
did a decent job on it.
Nah, they did it okay.
It
Axl
wasn't
Rose.
November Rain. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, he's tough to take.
Metallica, Nothing Else Matters. Was in the top 100.
I mean, that was a big hit for them.
Yeah.
And Metallica is on my playlist, but not that song.
Another one of my least favorite bands had a hit. Number 83 on the Billboard 100. Swing Out Sister with Am I the Same Girl? Bryan Adams, Thought I Died and Gone to Heaven.
Ooh. Okay. To illustrate my relationship at that time with popular music, I was tapped to DJ a church dance once.
Oh boy.
I think it was the year before I graduated, because the huge song of the 1991 was Bryan Adams, Everything I Do It For You.
Oh boy.
Everything I do, in parentheses, I do it for you. From the Robin Hood Prince of Thieves, which is
beauty.
A fantastic, it's a great movie. I mean, it's super cheesy, completely ahistorical, but like, come on. It's still pretty good.
You know how we've talked in past episodes about giving music that we didn't listen to the first time around a chance?
Mm-hmm.
I thought, maybe I'll check out and see like if Bryan Adams had like any good like B-sides or anything. So I had checked out a bunch of his albums and just nope. And they didn't even, for being such high dollar productions, they sound pretty terrible too.
Yeah, it's just
like
pure schmaltz.
Like, yeah, not even like good production quality or anything on it.
Yeah. So that song was enormous. And so at the church dance, I think I played 2 reggae songs, and someone complained that I played too many reggae songs. When one of them was like UB40 Red Wine.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's not to like.
Song. So the tradition at the church dances was that you'd play like a slow song, like at the very end, you'd play a slow song and then you play an upbeat song. And then they would have like the closing prayer, and then you'd play one more song, and that would like end the night. And the last song was always a slow song, like a slow dance song.
Sweaty palms.
Yep. And so I'm up there on the stage getting ready, and like I'm like, okay, I'll give the people what they want. I'll play Everything I Do It For You as the last slow song of the night. And I'm up on stage behind the speakers, so I can't really tell. I'm not a fan of that song, so I'm not that familiar with it. And like, it gets to the end and it goes quiet, and there's like a 3-second like little pause, and then it comes back for like the last chorus, like swells back up. Everything I do it
the big finale.
Yeah. And like, not a fan of that song. If you like it, that's fine.
Not familiar with that song, so you thought it was over?
And like, I kind of knew that it had that at the end, but it just like, it wasn't at the top of my mind. And I was like, okay, well, song's over. I don't want like the next song to start playing and I'll look unprofessional. So I stopped it. And I just hear this like kind of
Collective groan.
tide of like groans and boos. And then like the one of the adult chaperones like flips the lights on.
Oh man.
And it's like, oh man, such a rug pull from all these like Mormon teens.
Sweet. Yeah, man.
Like, oh yes. Like he's finally playing the song that we want to hear. And then,
Finally a good song.
Nope.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So going through this, making this playlist, it really kind of, okay. I could see a lot of the roots of the music that I like now. And it's like, I still like pretty much all of these bands. Like there's nothing I'm truly ashamed of. But it's like, oh, yeah, okay. That's why I like this band, because like I would listen to the crap out of these guys back in high school. So these guys had a huge for me, album come out in 1991. So I think I wore through several cassette tape copies of their album from 1991. But this is from one of their earlier albums. This is Rush with Bastille Day.
Oh man.
So awesome.
Rush is so great.
I know. Yeah, it's like I had to go with that live version of that. It's for their goofy stage antics. And
yeah, I had to do all my air drumming.
Yeah, totally.
Me and David Fox used to just sit around and like air drum to Rush albums.
Yeah, it's like just listen to every Rush album on loop. Every Rush album that had come out up until 1992. Yeah, often like in order.
It's all great albums.
Just to be a nerd. Before I really started like digging in the weeds for stuff to add to the playlist, I was like, well, I'll do 2 songs from each artist. And it was like, okay. It started to fill out. And it was like, well, what Rush song do I pick? Like, do I pick something from Presto? Because that was their latest album at the time.
Oh, from 91?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's when you and I saw them together.
Yeah.
Was Presto.
And I think Counterparts had come out. Counterparts or Roll the Bones had come out.
One of those.
92. But it was like Presto. Like, man, I really love that album.
Yeah, I have to revisit that one. I think it's been a while since I've heard it.
I had moving pictures in my head all afternoon because my neighbor loves washing his car. It's like an obsession. Well, it's an obsession with him. He loves it. Like it's the thing he does.
Detailer guys.
Yeah. And it's like, it's a thing he does to relax and like, you know, so he's not just sitting around watching TV and stuff. So I took the dog for a walk. I think the neighbor was inside the house, but his girlfriend was out like with a cloth, like washing his car. And I was like, oh, he's got you doing it now too? Is this like a Tom Sawyer thing? And she laughed and dog and I walked away, and then it was like
Tom Sawyer.
Yeah. Modern day
you walked away with the dog with a mean stride.
Yep. My mind is not for rent. Too many God or government. Yeah.
Oh man.
I had Neil Peart lyrics in my head the whole walk. I was like, okay, I don't want to do like the song that everybody knows. So
sure.
Like Tom Sawyer used to be my least favorite Rush song.
I like it.
Well, like I said, it used to be because that was like the one that you would hear all the time.
Yeah.
I was such a nerdy fanboy that I would always bristle when people would say, oh, all their songs sound the same. And it was like, well, you would
bristle with the energy.
Exactly. And so it's like, well, you've only ever heard Spirit of Radio or Tom Sawyer.
Yeah.
Probably just Tom Sawyer.
Well, even Spirit of Radio, like It's probably my least favorite song on my most favorite.
It's still a
Rush
fantastic song, though. And so
and
is Tom
they
Sawyer.
would still play. Yeah, and they would still play those on the radio.
Mhm.
So like my kids could hear Rush like driving around
Right.
and like turn it up, you know, like when they were little kids.
Yeah, but I was such a fanboy that it's like I couldn't enjoy the fact that like my favorite band of all time like got radio airplay. It was like, no, you need to hear Bytor and the Snow Dog. And then you'll be
Dude, La Vida Strongiata.
Yeah.
Like, are you going to play that on the radio ever?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
What was the lingo when you were a senior in high school?
I don't think Hella had happened yet. Maybe Hella was just happening. And then like there was a brief period where Face came back. Like Face was super popular when I was in junior high. And then it had like a brief comeback, like brief ironic comeback. Face. So dumb.
We'll do a Rush episode.
Yeah, for sure.
We have to because we're such fanboys.
Yeah, still. That it's like, the only thing I regret is being like a frothing, elitist, proselytizing Rush fanboy.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I had guilty pleasures even when I was in high school.
Same,
Like,
but it's like, I kind of had that, like, when you go to a party, how can you tell if someone's an architect or a vegan?
They'll tell you.
Yeah, don't worry, they'll tell you. It was like,
right.
You go to a party and somebody's a Rush fan, like, how can you tell? Don't worry, they'll tell you. So, guilty.
And when they do tell you,
yep.
This is just a tip. Like if you ever want to get in the grift game, like if you're like testing out like your pickpocketing skills and stuff, if you're like run into a Rush fan, but they're like the wrong kind of Rush fan, like you can lift their wallet and go to the ATM.
Don't. No.
Okay, never mind. Okay.
Cut that part out. Cut that part out.
The password is password.
Yes. If you know, you know. No. You will bring down an entire segment of society.
Yeah, I don't want to do that to Rush fans.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rush fans don't deserve identity theft.
No. But I did go grocery shopping with an even harder core Rush fan one time. And just like absent-mindedly, like didn't even realize that I was like looking at him while he was punching his pin in and started laughing. And he was like, what? I'm like, fucking Rush fan. And he was like, I don't know, he started to protest. I'm like, dude, I got the same pin.
Yeah, you're not alone.
I'm laughing because it's true.
Oh, man.
Anyway, we'll leave it just subtle enough so that if you don't already know what we're talking about, you'll have to dig into Rush's catalog and discover some awesome music. And then you'll forget that you will have access to a bunch of people's bank accounts.
Well,
anyway,
but probably not because things expire. It's not any of my PIN numbers anymore because, you have to get a new card and you have to change it every so often.
Oh, yeah. So, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
So it's no longer valid.
Yeah.
But anyways, okay, moving along.
Yeah. So there were several used record stores around town when I was in high school. And I would thumb through a lot of your record collection. When I was in high school, I went through pretty much the entirety of my Kiss phase.
Whoa, I did not know that.
Yeah. Like, it kind of started out ironically, and then it was like, okay, I mean,
It's a trap.
These are total earworms. Like, these songs rock. They're cheesy, but cheesy in a good way. Like, early 90s music was so terrible that it was like, of course I'll listen to just like anything from the 70s or almost anything from the 70s. And then like mid 90s, a bunch of really cool music came out. And it was like, okay, if I'm going to continue to like Kiss, it has to be purely ironical. because like these two bands don't exist in the same spheres, same hemispheres. If you're a Rush fan,
We did talk about like the Billboard top 10, top 100. But like, what were like the cool kids listening to in your senior year of high school? Like, what songs were popular among your classmates? Not necessarily like
it was a lot of hip hop, like
big singles or
Bobby
hits.
Brown, a bunch of bands like, or a bunch of stuff like Bobby Brown.
Did kids wear their pants backwards?
That
Like
was a little bit
crisscross?
later. Like that was just starting to happen when I graduated with Crisscross.
I know in the past you mentioned like Ugly Kid Joe or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. There's much stuff like that. And then like Bryan Adams and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And all the metalheads were probably way into Metallica at that point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like they were the band.
Pretty much. Yeah. Like the big three. Like I was into Metallica, but I wasn't into Megadeth at the time. So, or big four, I guess. Not big three. Got to include Anthrax. Anyway, so Kiss. Gotta love them. This is Detroit Rock City.
That's a great one.
Yep. Yeah, my friend Josh.
Yeah, I'm an unapologetic Kiss fan.
Yeah.
Like their early stuff.
Yeah.
Everything before Dynasty.
What?
Yeah. Maybe Pliny the Elder.
You weren't made for loving Dynasty?
No, I wasn't made for that.
So my friend Josh and I were obsessed with Kiss versus the Phantom of the Park.
Yeah, great flick.
And the Phantom of the Park, whatever the name was.
Something, yeah.
Yeah. And we had it on VHS somehow, a copy of it. And man, we would quote from it all the time. The only one I can remember is insufficient data at the moment, Star Child.
Yeah, that song is autobiographical about Paul Stanley's car accident that he got in.
Yeah, the official video didn't have the tire squeal.
The tire screech at the end, yeah. I love the bass line in that song too. The whole little doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo-doo. It's pretty rad.
Yeah.
And that's a LeBou bass. I talked about Rick Derringer's LeBou Explorers. Steve Kimmock has a couple of them.
Mm-hmm.
That guy, LeBou, also made Gene Simmons custom basses for him.
Nice.
They're pretty cool.
So who installed the mirrors on the back of all of them? Or was that just Paul Stanley's?
That was Paul Stanley's Ibanez Iceman.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they made the Paul Stanley version, and it's cracked mirror. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's actual cracked mirror, and there's a lot of Paul Stanley's DNA in that guitar.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
But, it did save the day when the laser light show went haywire.
True.
Taken over by the Phantom of the Park.
Yeah, you never know when you're going to have to deflect a high voltage laser beam.
Yep. All right. So back to the 70s again. Like all rocker kids, I got deep into Led Zeppelin. It amazes me that like Led Zeppelin wasn't that old at the time.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, wow, like it's pretty amazing. I could have picked dozens of Led Zeppelin songs to put on the playlist, but again, I wanted to pick something that was a little deeper of a cut, and I was like, well, kind of have to pick one of my two favorite Led Zeppelin songs. So, everybody's favorite Led Zeppelin song is Stairway to Heaven, of course, but
I wouldn't say that's my favorite one.
Or,
it's a great song.
Yeah. The Ocean is good. House of the Holy is good. They have so many great songs.
Oh, man. Yeah, but you can't pick one.
My two favorites are Darlene and Hot Dog. Nice. So this is Led Zeppelin, Hot Dog.
Yeah, man. I remember when that album came out.
Nice.
So good.
Yeah, I love it when big, huge bands do weird stuff.
Well, it's not that weird.
It's not that weird, but it's not like their usual.
It's not what you would expect from
exactly.
them. Right.
That's what I love. Part of what I love about it. And then it's just like that kind of Yankee Doodle riff is so cool.
Yeah.
And then it's like the lyrics are totally awesome. Like I took her word, I took it all beneath the sign that says U-Haul. She'd leave angels hanging around for more.
Oh,
It's
man.
like
Yeah.
one of my favorite lines in rock and roll. Like, it's so good.
Well, so far your list is like not all that different from what I would have been listening to in high school. Rush, Kiss, Zeppelin. Did they have the internet when you were in high school?
No.
Yeah, like people don't understand how music used to be.
Like the internet was a thing, but it was like not really. Like it wasn't accessible. Like AOL was still years away.
Right.
5 or
Yeah,
6.
so most
6
music
years.
is either going to be heard on the radio or like hand me down from like an older sibling or parents
Mm-hmm.
or just word of mouth
Yeah.
or your peers, like what they're listening to.
Yeah, or just like going to the record store.
Or MTV.
Going to the
yeah.
record store and like CDs weren't really even a thing at that point. I mean, they were, but like
They were starting to be, but
they were still
yes.
pretty expensive. And
Yeah.
I don't know. It was like, I could buy like one CD and a CD player, or I could use this record player and buy a bunch of records for super cheap and a bunch of blank cassette tapes.
Yeah, it's mostly cassettes back then. Mixtapes
Yeah.
were a thing by then. Yeah, or you'd see like a video on MTV or something. Like, oh, that band's cool.
Yep.
I think video kind of took over from radio at that point.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, MTV was huge. So, like we said, Wayne's World came out, and I had heard Queen before, but like Wayne's World like made Bohemian Rhapsody like a huge thing, a huge cultural phenomena at the time. And and so it was like, oh man, yeah, Queen totally rules. And because all those records were available at used record stores for dirt cheap, I got a ton of Queen records. So, Bohemian Rhapsody is a fantastic song, but again, I wanted to go for something a little less well known. And so this was a song that stuck with me because it was like, whoa, what a weird song. Like the music is like incongruous to the lyrics. Like they work together, but like they're sci-fi lyrics to like an old-timey song. And so it was like, I don't know, just this crazy song. And like Brian May famously is a physicist. And like instead of writing songs about Ayn Rand novels like Neil Peart did, he wrote songs about relativity and put them to like jaunty little ballads. So this is 39. And this is the live version from Earl's Court in 1877.
Yeah, that's a good one.
There's pretty much only one person who can rock a Harlequin leotard.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people can wear one, but not rock it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, anybody could wear one.
Yeah, they're very stretchy usually. So, but yeah. Nobody could actually make it look kind of cool, like Freddie Mercury. But yeah, I just love that. Like, it's like a Wikipedia said that it was Brian May trying to make like a pirate shanty, like a sci-fi pirate shanty.
Nice.
Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah, it's just like simple, like kick drum and tambourine, and then like everything's just kind of stripped down. But then it has like those cool sci-fi relativity, time dilation lyrics. Like it's like Interstellar, but like 70s and folky.
Yeah, it's a catchy tune.
Yeah.
we didn't talk about it during the folk episode, but like a lot of the rock and roll guys from the 60s and 70s, they grew up listening to skiffle.
Mm-hmm.
So like, and I know Jimmy Page did too, like playing it when he was younger. And I don't know that I've ever really listened to skiffle. I'm totally uninformed on it. I mean, I kind of know what it is, but it's like, well, who are the big skiffle artists that influenced all these guys to do this kind of stuff like this song? Or the Beatles were way into skiffle when they were young. It's just weird that they all kind of had that same influence, you know, American 50s rock and roll and British skiffle of the 50s, post-war Britain.
Yep. Yeah. So one of the songs that I took off of here, because the playlist was getting pretty long, was, and I could save it for the honorable mentions, but this is maybe I'll sprinkle mine in and you can add your honorables at the end.
Sure. So just as they come up.
Like a lot of these albums I had on vinyl, and, you know, they were either hand-me-downs from you or found them at used record stores or were given to me. And so Greg LeChaminade gave me the 2 Montrose albums. And
nice.
Space Station number 5 almost made it on the playlist, but I was like, yeah, we'll do a Montrose episode, and playlist is getting a little long in the tooth. But yeah, like all this rad 70s, oftentimes sci-fi oriented.
Yeah, I love space rock. We're going to have a space rock episode.
Oh, sweet. So from a huge English band doing a sci-fi song to a huge American band doing kind of a fantasy historical song. This is Aerosmith, because Aerosmith was super popular at the time. Like Pump had recently come out. And I mean, some of the songs on there are okay. Like you can see why they were popular, but like late Aerosmith is not my favorite band, but early Aerosmith is pretty rad.
Yeah.
So this is Aerosmith, Kings and Queens.
Yeah, it's a cool song.
Right? Yeah, it starts off all kind of spooky and doomy. And then like when it like rocks up like that, it's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, they're one of the great American rock bands.
Totally.
Sure. Did you know Gary Helfrich was a roadie guy for them for like in their early years?
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a bunch of cool stories about being on their road crew, and that's how he learned to weld, like making all their light riggings and like amp stands and stuff and stage gear.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Draw the Line and Rocks were, I think, my
Toys in the Attic.
Toys in the Attic has some good songs, has some cheesy songs too. They always have at least one cheesy song on the album. But those are kind of my 3 favorite Aerosmith records. Like the later stuff, I don't know, didn't really do it for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't listened to them in quite a while. Should revisit them.
Yeah. Yeah, I listened to those 2 albums like a ton back in the day. Yeah, and that album cover always used to trip me out. So it's like...
Yeah, it's pretty trippy. The caricatures.
Yeah, and it's like they're totally owning the fact that they're one of the weirdest looking bands in rock and roll.
Uh-huh.
They're not the ugliest, because like AC/DC was pretty ugly, and there's probably uglier bands. And like, I don't know, like Joe Perry has his moments, even Steven Tyler has his moments, but like they all have something kind of weird looking about them.
Yeah, they all definitely have character to them.
Yeah, and so it's like, yeah, this total like boardwalk roller skates and spilled ice cream cones caricature drawing of the band. Oh, okay. So they get it. They understand.
Yeah, it's interesting that you were so into Aerosmith in high school, because like I listened to Aerosmith and stuff, but I I wasn't like the biggest Aerosmith fan, and like I never would have turned you on to them or like handed down Aerosmith albums to you or anything like that. I think you kind of came into Aerosmith on your own.
Probably. I mean, they were like super popular at the time. So, I mean, it was like,
oh, yeah.
It was easy access, but like Love in an Elevator and some of the other
like
stuff.
I had some of their albums and I listened to them,
catchy, but
but I don't remember like playing them a lot when we shared a room.
No. Yeah, it was pretty much just Rush and Zeppelin.
Rush and AC/DC or something.
AC/DC.
The Who. The Jam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I didn't add a bunch of stuff that like I listened to when I was a kid and then listened to later because like was specifically focusing on stuff that I listened to in high school.
Yeah.
So, because it was like, the Jam and like all the two-tone stuff. Like I remember a bunch of that from when I was a kid. And then it was like, I got super into it later on. Yeah.
And when you were a senior, you're kind of an only child, like kind of had the run of the house to yourself by then.
Pretty much. Yeah. Because like, I'm 5 years younger than all the rest of the siblings. Everybody else had moved out. So yeah, I pretty much was an only child effectively in high school. And we had a dishwasher, so I never had to do dishes.
Yeah, you were pretty spoiled.
I was pretty spoiled.
Definitely the baby.
Yeah. Plus, it's like I had access to like all the older stuff, like older music because of you guys. But then like also had music that was more current. So this isn't a band from the 70s, but it's a band that kind of harkens back to the 70s. This is The Cult and Firewoman. Oh, man.
Such a great band.
So,
like, even though they were popular, like, it's like great songs, just great rock and roll. Like, all kinds of people liked them, punkers liked them, rockers liked them, metalheads liked them.
Yeah.
Like,
they just ripped.
Normies liked them.
Dude, that's such an awesome
They were so good.
Yeah. When I was doing research after the last episode, because I was like, well, I'm definitely adding The Cult because they were on heavy rotation my high school years. This illustrates the point that it was pre-mass internet and like the limited amount of information. I never knew they were a British band.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Never knew until last week.
Yeah, they used to be Southern Death Cult.
Yeah, it's like they have all those songs about like Native American stuff. And it was just like, oh, okay. They're just like, I don't know, from somewhere in the U.S. I never knew they were a British
from the
band.
Midwest somewhere.
Yeah, or like Texas or
Toledo.
LA probably. But
oh man.
Yeah, it was like, whoa, okay. That makes sense. I'm not surprised, but it's like I am kind of surprised because I never knew. Yeah.
Billy Duffy's really underrated as a guitar player too.
Yeah.
Just always played the right part. Cool hooks. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like I only ever had 2 of their albums. After last week, I downloaded like a whole bunch more of theirs.
Oh man.
Because it's like it all just sounds like a Cult. And it's like, wow. Okay, there's songs of theirs I've never heard that just sound like awesome Cult songs. It's like, and I kind of wish I could like rock out in a mail truck for hours and hours a day. I'd make half of West County listen to the Cult, my 2000s Cult albums.
Oh man,
this one's from
nice.
2015. The Cult.
You've never heard this, but you know who it is.
Yep. You'll recognize immediately. Man. Yeah.
My favorite video of theirs, and I can't remember what song it is. I could probably find it if I looked for it, but they're driving around in the back of like a big lifted Ford pickup with a roll bar. Yeah. Super rad.
Right.
I remember that was like when I first heard them and I was like, whoa, These guys are rad.
Yeah.
They tick all the boxes.
You know how much I dislike ballads? I mentioned that on the podcast many times.
Uh-huh.
I'm disinclined. But like, dude, Edie.
Oh, great song.
Freaking rips, man. I love that song. They were one of those bands where it's like I pretty much listened to those 2 albums like fairly constantly my whole life. Or,
they're so
since they came out.
Yeah, they're just so quality. Like,
so I remember years after high school, I can't remember where I was driving, but I was like in my car driving by myself and listening to that album. And like the sun was setting, like heading out like West 3rd with like the sun setting and like birds flying across like the hazy setting sun while Edie played. It was like,
oh man,
dude,
nice.
I'm like an angsty 21-year-old, but
yeah, they were so original. Like nobody sounds cool. Like that.
Yeah,
and the guy's voice is a big part of it, but like they fit so well, you know.
Yeah, and it's like they do all the stuff that like the hair metal bands that I don't like do without like any of the bad like the stuff about hair metal that I don't like.
Maybe it's because they were British. They kind of
they weren't
stayed
from LA.
Clear all that.
Yeah.
But
it's like, you know, they could have played. They probably did play Sunset Strip at that.
Oh, I'm
time.
sure they did. Yeah.
But like we're above it all.
Yeah.
Anything else about the cult?
Nah. If I can find that video, maybe I'll add it to my bonus playlist because nothing wrong with listening to a little more cult.
Yeah, everybody needs.
Although for my honorable mentions, they were all 1992 releases, so it wasn't like what I was. It's stuff I was listening to back then, but it's stuff that came out in that time period.
Yeah, you can break that rule for the cult.
Yeah.
So this next band was enormous. And I went off, you know, I did some lesser knowns. I guess Detroit's Rock City was a huge hit for Kiss, but I went with mostly lesser known stuff. Firewoman's probably the Cult's biggest hit. And then this is definitely this band's biggest hit. But this is a band I just absolutely like, dude, like I know a lot of new music is terrible, but these guys are new and this is awesome. So even though this was a little earlier than high school, than 1992, I listened to these guys a ton in high school.
It was current. It was still current back then.
Yeah, there was a less turnover without the internet. So this is Living Color with Cult of Personality.
Yeah, those guys are so good.
Right? Vernon Reed's guitar solo in that song is just, it needs to be etched into a golden record and shot into space for aliens to find long after our sun engulfs our civilization. It's incredible. Like,
yeah, like when I first started playing guitar, I was really influenced by, well, just like rock and roll stuff, but then Angus Young, AC/DC stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then a little bit, like shortly after that, it was Alex Lifeson, like all Alex all the time. But when Living Color came out, it was like, oh man, it like totally struck a nerve with me. And I was like trying to play guitar like that all the time.
Right?
Yeah. Just like loud and wild and abstract. And
yeah. It's like people talk about like, you know, oh, it's either like quantum physics or fourth dimensional chess. Like, it's like, oh, well, you don't understand because it's like, you know, it's all Greek to you or whatever. Like, and it's like,
oh, it's not Greek to me. I'm harnessing the power of quantum physics right now to manifest.
Right. I love that journey for you.
Oh, I forgot to mention after the Aerosmith song, like that was the second song in your list that talked about guillotines. And I was hoping it wasn't going to like establish a pattern, but so far it's only been those two songs.
I mean, I'm going with the zeitgeist of the day. Anyway, Cult of Personality definitely plays into that too. And who knows? We'll see at the end of the playlist what how relevant some of this stuff is to this day. But yeah, so fourth dimensional chess, like most of the time it doesn't like, okay, well, you don't understand it, but like I can tell it's BS. But like Vernon Reid's guitar solo in Cult of Personality is fourth dimensional chess, like done with 6 strings. Like, holy crap. It's like just the moment you think like, oh, well, he's just kind of noodling. Oh, he's just like yanking on the way. And it's like, no, that's all very deliberate. Like,
well, yeah, it's like he's not just wanging around because like he'll play that same thing note for note when you see him in concert. It's like
that. And then like, it's like it all just kind of makes sense. Like it has this energy and this like presence that like it all works.
Yeah, there was kind of this big in New York City prior to them putting Living Color together, and even concurrent with it, there's kind of this big like free jazz movement, like kind of centered around this club called the Knitting Factory. There's other guitar players like John Paul Borelli and Vernon Reid and some others that were kind of playing that free jazz style. They're really talented, really competent guitar players, but they had that little bit of wildness to them and like experimentalness to them, but like bringing the heaviness with that is just such a beautiful thing.
Yeah. It's like it shouldn't. Well, like conventional thinking tells you it shouldn't work, but like it definitely does and proves conventional thinking wrong.
Yeah. And the beauty of it really at the time is like, I mean, hip hop was huge.
Yeah.
By the 90s. I mean, it's kind of like what everybody was listening to. And so for these guys to come out of New York, like with that attitude, but being heavy and rocking is like such a breath of fresh air and just like, total like game changer.
Yeah. And having like hip hop artists like do like guest spots on their albums.
Yeah. Speaking of Aerosmith, like Run DMC doing Walk This Way. And
yeah,
it was kind of starting to become a thing. Like Run DMC's King of Rock album might be this jumping off point and all that stuff.
Right.
Besides like the way back stuff, like Mother's Finest and Funkadelic and stuff like that.
Right.
But
I almost put Parliament and Funkadelic on here, but because I was listening to those guys in high school, but we'll do episodes.
Oh yeah, we'll have an episode on those guys.
Yeah, like I think one of the factors was like for high school kids, there was like a rivalry between like rockers and rappers and like who was cooler and who was better and whatever, dumb teenager BS. In the real world, outside of school, it was like, well, no, like there's no competition. Like we both have a common enemy in like Tipper Gore and the PMRC. Like the establishment hates both of us. So it's like, why not get together and play music together? So,
yeah, Anthrax was kind of part of that too.
Totally. But yeah, like the most mainstream one was the Aerosmith Run DMC.
Yeah.
Collab. And like that version of that song is totally awesome.
Yeah, and I'm not in any way condoning rap metal. Like when I say I like hard hitting heavy stuff,
you mean,
and I also like
new metal,
hip hop energy. Yeah, like I don't know,
not
a lot of that stuff by the 90s.
Because I listen to a lot of new metal, but I don't listen to a lot of new metal. And NU metal if you're
Oh, do you listen to any GNU metal?
that might be a thing.
I'm sure it's a thing.
Wildebeest metal. I mean, wildebeests are pretty metal animals. Like
They're pretty metal.
nothing in Africa looks more like some medieval church painting depiction of devilry than a wildebeest
Oh, man.
or a gnu. All right. So the next band, completely different direction, completely different side of the planet. I think I got into these guys in junior high because they were super big and continued to listen to them and got access to some of their earlier albums. So one of the huge bands when I was in school was In Excess. And this is probably my favorite In Excess song off their first album, The One Thing. I think there was every kind of 80s hair sitting around that table.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of watching people eat or cats, especially cats on the table.
Yeah, pretty gross.
But it's a good song.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, were you an NXS fan because they were popular, or because you heard them and you dug them, or because a lot of people said you looked like the singer?
That was later.
Okay.
Yeah, when I started growing my hair out. So, I mean, it didn't hurt because, I mean, especially later on in the 80s and 90s, like, that guy was, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just remember people saying, "Oh, you look like the singer from NXS."
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, okay.
Well, cats on the table.
And the silver spoon.
Yeah. I've talked about one of my favorite podcasts, Monster Talk, on the show before. Uh-huh. Shout out to Monster Talk. I love everything they do. Supported them on Patreon for years. Yeah, like Karen and Blake can do no wrong in my book. But Blake often talks about how when he's watching stuff with his kids from like before his kids were born, you know, like stuff from the 70s or 80s or 60s or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And there's an animal in it. It'd be like, yeah, that cat's probably dead.
Oh, man.
And like his wife and his kids are like, shut up. But so I totally got the giggles when they had that close up of that cat. And I could hear,
you're thinking, yeah,
I could hear Blake from Monster Talk saying, that cat's probably dead. Or that cat.
Yeah, there's no way that cat's alive anymore.
Yeah. It's like,
oh, man.
Oh, man. It's so bad. Such a bad joke.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he was watching, because one of his other podcasts that he does is In Research Of, where he and Jeb Card, one of my other favorite podcasters, watch old episodes of In Search Of, basically do what we do for music, but with In Search Of. One of the early episodes of In Search Of had a tortoise, and Blake was like, yeah, I was watching this with one of my daughters, and I was about to say, that tortoise is probably dead. He was like, well, maybe not.
Maybe not.
That tortoise could still be alive. I mean, it was only 45 years ago.
Oh, man.
It's nothing to a tortoise.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to NXS. So in the 80s, like mid 80s, when I was in junior high, for some reason, Australia, like America had this like obsession with Australia. And like NXS was part of it, but it was like, there were like
Midnight Oil.
It was a little early for Midnight Oil. Yeah, they were part of that. But like, yeah, no, they were totally 80s. Yeah, because I had that Wilderness Trail Bikes t-shirt, because they had that lube called Midnight Oil, and everybody thought it was the band, and that was in junior high. So yeah, anyway, the Yeah, there was like those koala sodas and stuff. Like American pop culture just went like Australia crazy in the mid 80s. So it was like one of the few things that still endures in my heart from that is In Excess. So anything else you want to add about those guys?
No, I think I had one of their records, but I don't remember listening to them a ton.
Mm-hmm.
I heard them a ton, but I didn't listen to them a ton.
Right. Yeah, and like the early 2000s, like because the singer died, and in the early 2000s they had like a reality TV show, like of the band
to find a new singer,
finding a new singer, and they put out an album or two with the singer they found through the TV show. Yeah, like this dude from the Philippines who had a totally amazing voice. And then there was some kind of fiasco. The band, like, they kicked him out of the band in like a really douchey way. Like, I guess he was kind of an a-hole, and they fired him and kicked him out of the band, but like in a really lame way. Like, they just kind of left him. They were on mid-tour or something, and they just left him stranded somewhere. They're just like, yeah, find your own way home, buddy.
Just had enough, I guess.
Yeah. We're sick of your crap. And it's like, well, okay, that probably wasn't the best way to handle that, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, so hip-hop was super popular at the time. And some of it was really good, some of it was not as good, but one of the bands that I listened to back in the day and have continued to listen to my whole life is De La Soul.
Oh, they're so good.
So this is De La Soul with Me, Myself, and I.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool hip hop back then.
I know.
You know, I'm sure there's a lot of cool hip hop nowadays, but there's a lot of hip hop that is like pretty unlistenable.
Yeah, but I mean, that's
I'm sure there are people that love it, and yeah, but man, 3 Feet High and Rising is like,
yeah,
it's got to be in the collection. That's like one for the bunker. You know, like if you're gonna have dance night or something, pull out 3 Feet High and Rising.
And yeah, the next song in the playlist is like mandatory bunker dance night song.
Oh man. Well, you know, like in the 80s, like some people know this, not everybody knows this, but some people know this. Like I was really into like popping and breakdancing and stuff. And so like I listened to like all kinds of that music back like in the early 80s. And then like when I was hanging out with Sean, like around this time, like after David moved and I started working with Sean and hanging out with him a bunch, I started like dancing again and stuff because we'd always have parties, and so we'd like, I don't know, it's fun to have somebody to dance with again. And so I started listening to like a lot more hip hop like around this time period too, like late 80s, early 90s.
Nice.
Yeah, De La Soul was definitely one of them.
Yeah, I was always just way too uncoordinated to do any of that. But like, yeah, I remember kids dragging pieces of cardboard to school and wearing one glove.
I'm just too old to do it now.
Oh, well, yeah.
My joints are too crunchy.
Totally. But yeah, like,
I don't know. I still got some moves.
Yeah, I'm just so glad that I listened to De La Soul back in the day, because like there's so much good stuff out now. It's like, oh man, this is like De La Soul good. Okay.
Oh man, yeah.
Like, you know, it gives me like an access, or like, you know, it.
Well, it'd be
like,
nice if
it's an easy on ramp.
I'm gonna sound like a geezer or something, but it'd be nice if like the positivity and the, you know, like less of the money stuff and less of the mumbling or the, you know, ho this and that,
right,
twerking stuff and everything. It'd be nice if some of that came back into the hip hop scene.
Right. There is
like the positivity and the consciousness.
Yeah. That is all still there.
Well, I mean,
in
the popular.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was maybe one of the first ones that really kind of brought Funkadelic back to, because they sampled Funkadelic Knee Deep for that song. And that might have been kind of the start of like the light getting shown back on them again a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man. I remember it might have been late 90s. I saw Parliament Funkadelic at the Veterans Memorial Center.
Oh, cool.
And it was awesome.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
All right. You got another dance tune for us?
Yeah. So
nice.
This song was like unavoidable in the 90s, and for good reason. Like,
yeah, I'm trying to remember when this came out.
I think it was 90 or 91.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And it's like you heard it on the radio all the time. You heard it on TV all the time. Like, it was a huge smash. And it's like, it's one of those songs that is super popular or was super popular, but it's not lame. Like, it's a awesome song. So this is D-Light, Groove is in the Heart.
Oh, man.
Second Harlequin leotard of the playlist.
Yeah, that stuff is so of that time, too. Early 90s.
It's so of that time. And then it was like vintage fashion came back for like a hot minute. And like, I was already a dude that was into the Cult and like their greaser bell-bottom look.
Uh-huh.
And so it was like, oh, dude, yeah, like ladies are wearing bell-bottoms and platforms again. Like, I'm into it. This is cool. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was a weird period.
But yeah, Lady Miss Keir rocking the Harlequin leotard. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, I saw them on that tour.
Nice.
That first album in San Francisco. And yeah, she had a costume change for every single song.
I'll bet.
It was amazing. Yeah. That was a fun concert.
I'll bet.
Yeah, and then like you'd like go out in the lobby and stuff, and there'd be like all these like drag queens like posing for these photographers, it's like this huge party,
Nice.
Yeah, it was nuts.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. And then my roommate Ben, he was kind of a hip hop kid from New York, and his best friend growing up ended up being one of the DJs in Delight.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me about that.
Kind of later on.
Cool.
There's a really like if you want to get into Delight, get their first album, because it's got all their hits and it's like when they were the freshest. But they have an album that came out in 1996 called Sampadelic Relics and Dance Floor Oddities.
Oh yeah, I've got that one.
And it's a bunch of like B-sides and like previously unreleased stuff or different mixes of stuff. And yeah, that's a really good album because it's not, I don't know, it's not put together like as an album.
Right.
But like everything on there is super good.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, oh man, this was like stuff that didn't make it onto the albums.
Yeah.
So I love stuff like that. Yeah. And like,
yeah, that's a good one to check out too.
Those guys like kind of paved the way for stuff I listened to a ton later on and was like, I really want to add this to the list, but it came out like
later.
Their first album was 93. No. But like, like Jamiroquai.
We are going to do
stuff.
We are going to do decades. So we will hit a 90s episode.
Okay. Yeah. Cause it was like, oh man, I listened to so much Jamiroquai. But it was like, oh, yep. Starting in 93.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Well, and that was, albums were still a thing.
Yeah.
You know, it was CDs by that point, but it wasn't just singles.
Right.
It wasn't like it is
I mean,
now.
you would
with
hear the
just
single on the
streaming.
radio, but like
Yeah.
singles weren't
But-
really a thing because you couldn't go and buy like the little 8-inch record or download the one song.
Yeah, you would still listen to the album, and the songs would be in the order that the artist decided to arrange them,
Right.
production wise. Yeah, so it's like the album experience is like kind of missing these days.
Yeah.
Like even if I get albums, like a lot of times the way I listen to them, it'll arrange them alphabetically or something. It's like, that's not the order they're supposed to be in.
Oh yeah. One of my experiences with that whole thing is I was hanging out with this dude who was like way younger, not in a creepy way. I was like in my 40s and he was in his late 20s, but he was an only child and it showed. Like he never had any like older sibling like musical influence. So it was like, oh dude, like you can be the kid brother I never had.
Nice.
And so I was like trying to introduce him. It was like peak iPod years. And when I had like the big 32 gig iPod, which seems pathetically small now, but it was
the big white one,
the biggest one they made. Yeah. It had a hard drive.
yeah, it would
hard
spin
drive.
up to play.
And I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to introduce you to like album, like listening to a whole album and how like one song flows into the other. And,
Dark Side of the Moon. You put on Dark Side of the Moon for
no.
What?
Not a Floyd fan. So I can't remember the name of the album, but I downloaded a Rolling Stones album and played it for him on like this road trip we were going on, like going to a friend's house to play D&D or some RPG. And so I put on this album and it was like, got towards the end of the album and it was like, wait a minute, that song's not on the second half of that album. I had it on the iPod set on shuffle. So I was like,
shuffle album.
Yeah. And so I just made sure that the screen never lit up and just let it go. It was like, I'm never going to mention this again. Like, no, man, you really got to listen to it the way like the artist and the producers like intended. Like this, you know, what they start off like the album with like, you know, a really strong song, and then it kind of leads into this, and then like one song flows into the other, and then it's like this was originally on vinyl, so like the second half like has to start with another kind of banger song. It's all a whole package. It's like shuffle.
No, dude, you've never heard Sgt. Pepper's?
Yeah.
Shuffle.
Oops.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Dude, 2112 is the most amazing album ever.
Yeah.
Come on, check this out. Passage to Bangkok, Twilight Zone. Really? I thought you said this was epic.
Yeah. Yeah. My high horse broke a leg that day.
Oh, man.
Had to be put out of its misery.
I shouldn't have talked about 2112.
Oh, shh. No. Just cut that part out. Just cut that part out. It'll be fine.
Okay. They probably forgot the first thing we were talking about anyway.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's fourth dimensional chess. All right. We're moving on. Yeah, D-Light freaking rules. So it's interesting that you mentioned like kind of rap metal or like rap influenced metal, because this band's kind of metal, kind of not, and then the singer does like sing in a very rap style, and then he also kind of sings in a traditional rock style. So This song, it's not one of my favorites, but it was one that was super popular at the time, and I did enjoy this band. I did listen to them. So kind of a guilty pleasure, but I don't really feel that guilty about it. So this is Faith No More, Epic.
Man, such a classic.
Yeah, I mean, it's very of its time, but like...
Well, it's so Bay Area, too.
Yeah, it's like, it was like every 90s California dude in one band. Like every kind. Like Hesher dude.
There was kind of a resurgence around that time, like Bay Area music stuff.
Yeah, and like we all... Like that video was enormous. Like it was controversial because like it got banned because of animal cruelty. The fish at the end, that fish is probably dead by now. But like, I remember like me and a bunch of my friends like, dude, he's wearing a Mr. Bungle shirt. Like, that's so awesome.
He was the singer for Mr. Bungle.
I know, but it was like, whoa. And like, did you see the tribute to Cliff Burton shirt? So rad.
Oh man,
just nerding out.
Yeah, Mike Patton's from Eureka.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's hard to make it in the music business up on the North Coast, though.
Yeah,
not many outlets.
Yeah, I know a bunch of people that started there, but yeah, they had to move down to make it big.
Yeah, there's a lot of creativity and like original sounds coming out. It wasn't cool to just do the same old thing anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't want to sound like Night Ranger. Although, nothing wrong with Night Ranger.
Nothing wrong with sounding like Night Ranger.
No.
But yeah, like people were trying to break genres and mix stuff up more. And
yeah, and it was like you mentioned Nirvana earlier, like they were later. Oh yeah, we already mentioned that. It was like later that year because like grunge was like
everything
in the air. Like my whole high school or my whole time at high school was like the bubble that was going to burst and give birth to grunge. That it was just like people were still.
Well, it was already happening, but it hadn't totally blown up.
Yeah, it hadn't totally blown up, and like people were still trying to be franchised. They hadn't accepted their disenfranchisement to like fully embrace grunge. But then it's like, once Nirvana and Soundgarden and even Pearl Jam hit the scene, it's like, holy crap.
Yeah, when I saw Living Color, I think it was like late 88, maybe like December 88, something like that. Soundgarden was their opener.
Nice.
And yeah, I was like, okay, who are these guys? Where do I get their record?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the time I saw Living Color was it was later. It was 90s, and Bad Brains opened up for him.
Oh yeah, nice.
And but I've seen Bad Brains twice, and both times HR was in jail.
Ah, man.
Yeah, so I've never seen HR live. But so yeah, that Bad Brains and Living Color concert was like hands down the best concert I've ever been to. It was so amazing. And then years later saw them at the Mystic Theater for like the Time's Up 30th anniversary or something.
Oh yeah.
And,
I think you mentioned this on our vocals.
Oh yeah.
Episode.
So yeah. It was like, oh man, I get to shake hands with Vernon Reed.
Nice.
Anyway, moving along. Back to the playlist. So this was a band that was pretty popular at the time, and I remember you had this album, and I remember like looking at the album cover and being tripped out, and like, okay, I got to check this band out, and then started hearing them seeing them on MTV, And
I have
like
mixed feelings about this band.
me too.
Like, I love this song you're going to play,
Mhm. It's pretty much the only song of theirs.
but
that
it
I
might
like.
be their only good song.
Yeah, the singer has kind of a dividing voice. Like you either love it or hate it. And then like some of their songs are not the greatest, but it was like this song just totally blew me away the first time I heard it. And it was like, dang.
Yeah. I mean, it rocks.
Yeah.
Like, I'll enjoy a song if it rocks, you know?
Yeah, and this song definitely rocks.
I'll even listen to the Nuge if it rocks, you know?
Right.
Like, but not all these guys' stuff rocked. And there are two, I don't know, we'll talk about it after the song.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So this is Jane's Addiction, Mountain Song. Yeah,
it's still a great song.
Yeah, some of those guitar riffs are just so beefy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like the intro, it's just like it brings the thunder, man. But
yeah,
and like Perry Farrell was kind of a, I don't know, LA. I don't think he was a tweaker, but he acted like a tweaker a lot.
Well, they kind of became like the hipster darlings, and like their egos kind of got a little out of control.
They did, but like he also did start like the Lollapalooza thing, and like having a huge outdoor music festival for independent bands.
Yeah,
was like pretty novel for the time.
Yeah, well, I think they were too polarizing to like ever. I mean, they got huge,
right?
But they were too polarizing to ever be like mainstream,
right?
So they really kind of became like the underground darlings,
right? But they did use their success to like provide a platform for other indie bands. So
yeah, but like the hipness of like that whole scene and what was going on in the 90s,
right?
Like it got a little grating, and like a lot of people started using harder drugs and things like that. Like I left California in 1994, 2 years after 92, just because I had to get away from like everybody and everything that was going on, you know?
Right.
It was just too downer and too like, I don't know. There's too much bad stuff going on.
Yeah.
Too much bad energy.
Yep.
I just had to get away from it. Yeah. Went on my surf bum phase.
Nice.
Nature boy, the jungles of Maui.
Right. Yeah. So I'm going to talk about one of my other honorable mentions that didn't end up on the playlist, probably because he'll have his own episode, maybe not, or maybe he doesn't need it, his own episode, because if you can hear my voice, you've heard of him. But maybe in between two songs by white guys with dreadlocks, like I went through my Kiss phase in high school, and I also went through my Bob Marley phase in high school.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I probably
a ton of Bob Marley.
In 92, I still probably had dreadlocks.
Probably.
Trying to think when I cut my dreadlocks off. But yeah, I'm sure I still had them in 92. Right around that time.
Yeah.
I think because all this stuff that was going on and how it was becoming a thing, it was like, it's time.
So, next song is White Zombie, Thunder Kiss 65.
Man,
so dope.
What a banger.
Yeah, that whole album is just so magnificent.
Yeah, sometimes you just feel that way, you know?
Yeah, it's like they captured like something, and like, you know, like their image was totally part of their whole thing, but like they had the tunes to back it up. Like it was a whole package, and like their image was totally cool too. Like,
just like the whole concept. Yeah,
that whole grindhouse groove metal, just funky dirtbag psychobilly thing. Like, it's just perfect.
Well, it's interesting because
so
like
good.
a lot of people are influenced by all these things, but it's like all these things on your list, like they did it first and they did it best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, Rob Zombie's had like some huge smash hits since then, but it's like he did it best back then.
Yeah, proof of concept.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, Dragula is okay, but like it ain't no Thunder Kiss 65.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so awesome.
Yeah, it's a good one to have. Like, you're not going to listen to it all the time, but like every once in a while, you just got to put that song on and just like drive a car way too fast or psych yourself up to go down a mountain bike trail that's like a little too sketchy.
Yep.
Or something. Yeah, blow all the carbon out of your tailpipe.
Yeah, inspire you to be a little more badass.
Yeah. That might be my walk-on song. Like if I ever had a walk-on song,
For like boxing, mixed martial arts, or pro wrestling.
MMA. Yeah. Come walking out to that, get the crowd all hyped, and then proceed to get my butt kicked. Although I don't know if I was fired up, listen to that song.
True. I don't know.
Like, what's the most extreme thing that you have to do in your like day-to-day life right now? Is it like I don't know, like clean out a Tupperware that's been in the fridge for too long or something? Like, what do you have to get hyped up for anymore?
Yeah,
it's like I lift weights and stuff, but like I don't pump iron. But I swing kettlebells and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think there's anything I do that would merit having to put on some White Zombie and crank it up.
Yeah.
Other than just being in the mood,
Yeah, because like I make pretty rad, like badass playlists for like some of our bike rides, but it's like I'm riding cruiser bikes with my friends. Like,
yeah,
we're not cool.
Oh man,
we're cooler than some people, but like not really.
Yeah, maybe when I get my next dirt bike rebuilt or something, I'll put that in my earbuds.
Yeah, that would do it. Yeah, I could have been listening to that when I went snowmobiling the first time. Like, I was a little outside my normal range.
I think I need to get to where I do listen to that more in my life, because like there's more things going on in my life that merit having that playing. Like maybe, I don't know, maybe I do need a car that song would like sound good in,
Maybe.
Instead of my C-Max hybrid.
Nothing wrong with a C-Max hybrid.
I know there's nothing wrong with it, but it's not something you're going to listen to White Zombie. I don't think I ever turned my kids on to White Zombie. It's never too late.
Never too late. Yeah, I don't think I've listened to it in 20 years, but I think my walk on White Zombie song, it would be pro wrestling, and it would be the first song from that album. Welcome to the planet, motherfucker. It's like, is the planet named motherfucker? Or are you saying like, welcome to the planet, motherfucker? Like,
yeah, like which is it?
Yeah, it works both ways. It's badass both ways.
We might be on that planet.
Yeah.
Maybe.
We'll revisit that at the end of the playlist. But yeah. Like, it goes beyond like, you're in a world of hurt. You're in planet motherfucker. Oh God.
Well, yeah, it could be. It could also mean like, let me introduce you to the pain of gravity. See the planet down there? I'm going to introduce you to the planet.
You ready for your close-up? Nice.
Oh, man.
Off of the top rope.
Yep.
All right. So
I'm looking forward to this next one just because I want to hear it right now.
yeah. So yeah, I got super into Metallica. I wouldn't say it was my Metallica phase because my Metallica phase continued for a few more years until the band themselves ended it for me. But that's all we'll say about that. But the first few Metallica albums are just, I'm so glad they exist and they still exist. And I will always have a respect for that band. So this is Master of Puppets.
Ha ha ha.
Yikes.
Oh, man.
Now I know it seems incongruous to call something with like a acoustic guitar interlude no frills.
Uh-huh.
But like part of what I love about early Metallica is just like how stripped down they were. Like no nonsense.
Yeah, just brutal.
Yeah.
Just
no
brutally effective.
no gimmicks, no frills, just like, yeah, no, we're gonna bring the thunder.
Oh, just a heads up. It's not going to happen till like middle of April, late April, but we had our thrash metal episode.
Yeah.
And we covered Blind Illusion and we covered Death Angel.
Oh, yeah.
And so Blind Illusion and Death Angel are both going to be opening for Exodus.
Mm-hmm.
Exodus is doing a 40th anniversary, 40 Years of Blood, celebrating the release of Bonded by Blood 40 years ago. And they're doing 2 shows, and the first show is going to have Blind Illusion and Death Angel opening for them. So if you enjoyed our thrash metal episode, that might be worth checking out. I kind of want to go. I don't know if I'm going to make it down there, but I kind of want to go to it.
If I can make it, I'm going to go.
Yeah, and my friend Bud's son Avery playing bass for Blind Illusion. It's going to be like his first big show, like outside of a club and stuff.
Nice.
So it'll be pretty exciting to like see him like go through that whole thing.
Nice.
Like for a big show like that.
Totally.
Anyways, if you're down in the Bay Area, I think it's going to be in Berkeley 2 nights. And we probably should have had Exodus on our episode, but it was already getting too long.
Yeah. Yeah, I never really got into those guys, but what I've heard from them I like. So
yeah.
I need to.
Yeah, they're one of the early ones.
Yeah.
From back then. And they also kind of cross-pollinate a little bit. Was it Gary Holt plays in Exodus and plays in my brain is just totally blank right now. Slayer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just needed to prime your pump. Prime your metal pump.
It's getting a little late.
Yeah.
I did a lot of stuff today.
2 more. Can wrap it up. This next band was pioneers of death metal, and I never knew they were like as big as they were. Me being a huge nerd, being into painting miniatures, painting lead figures, and being into Warhammer and other stuff. So these guys put out a couple albums on a record label that Games Workshop had for a while.
Whoa.
And they had a little 6-inch floppy record that came in the White Dwarf magazine.
White Dwarf, nice.
And so this is where I first heard these guys. And it was like, man, they were just some like crazy, super heavy, brutal British metal. You know, we listened to them as kids or, as teenagers, but then it was just like, oh, wait, they're actually a thing. Like, okay, these guys were like death metal pioneers. That's pretty cool. So this is Bolt Thrower with World Eater.
Man, Bolt Thrower.
Yeah, just an onslaught. And, like a lot of that stuff is like pretty standard for death metal these days. Like the harsh vocals and the like blast beats and the just thick.
Yeah, I mean, these
sludgy.
guys were super influential in that whole kind of thing.
But it's like, this was like early 90s. It's pretty nuts. Like other heavy metal at the time didn't sound anything like that. I mean, like Venom was around, but like I didn't get into those
like that though.
They weren't that sludgy.
No.
And I didn't
had
get into
some Venom.
I know.
I had some Venom when I was in high school, but I never played it for you because you're like too young for that kind of thing.
Yeah, I didn't get into them until later. But when I did. Like Countess Bathory is one of the dopest songs ever. Yeah, Bolt Thrower had like cool album covers and stuff, like total Warhammer nerd warfare brutality.
Yeah, I can totally see how they were sponsored by Games Workshop or whatever.
Yeah, a couple other bands that were on their label, but yeah, Bolt Thrower is definitely the one with the longest lasting, and it's pretty cool to like come across bands and like, whoa, dude. Like, it's not Celtic Frost. Is it Cloven Hoof? I don't think Cloven Hoof was ever on there's a Chris Koss, not Chris Cross in Cloven Hoof. I don't think they were ever on. Okay, yeah, they were never on the Games Workshop label, but they have like one of their albums has a John Blanche painting. So it's just like, whoa, dude. Like, it was all part of this scene, miniatures, wargaming, tribe, heavy metal and stuff. Weird fantasy art.
I was going to say, technology-wise, 1992, interestingly enough, is the year that both the PV5150 amplifier came out, which was an amplifier that Eddie Van Halen developed with PV because he wanted like PV was kind of known for just selling like entry level kind of amps, right, or like stuff that was affordable and roadworthy for your average Joe. So Eddie Van Halen worked with them to develop the 5150 amplifier, which is one of the first like high gain amps besides Mesa Boogie, which Metallica used, and besides Soldanos, which were super expensive.
Right.
But also the Mesa dual rectifier came out in 1992. So in 1992, both the 5150 and the Mesa dual rectifier came out. And that just totally changed the sound of heavy guitar. Like a lot of this, like music like these guys, I think like it was a technological leap, going from the Marshall sound to that really high gain, like tuned down guitars and stuff. And yeah, it
was less like warm tube amp and more just like brutal,
just wall of sound and loud and heavy. Yeah. Lots of low end.
Yeah. I think that was the year Nathan Explosion was born too. The singer for Death Clock.
Oh, in 1992. Interesting.
Yeah. So that was the year Brutal was born.
Whoa. Yeah, I don't have a dual rectifier. I used to play Mesa Boogie stuff, but I don't anymore. But I do have a 5150, and it totally delivers the goods.
Nice.
For that kind of stuff.
Next time I come up, we'll have to write some death metal songs.
Oh, yeah. Okay, what's your last pick?
So, last pick, talked about them before on the podcast, talked about them before on the playlist. This is Bad Brains with Big Takeover.
Yeah, I was listening to a ton of Bad Brains back then.
Yeah, me too. Oh,
They're so good.
yeah, Bad Brains.
I was looking at bike classifieds earlier today,
Oh, yeah.
and I saw Soulcraft for sale for like $300.
Oh, man.
And yeah, just I don't know, still have hurt feelings about that whole thing.
Yeah.
Anyways, won't get into that on the podcast. But yeah, I was thinking about Bad Brains and that connection.
Yeah. Quickness was such an awesome album.
Oh yeah, Eye Against Eye and Quickness.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, what they were talking about could have been taken as hyperbole back then. Now it's just, yeah, they know, but just nobody cares. It was a Roman salute.
Well, it's interesting though, because at the end of last year, on the same night, or maybe it was early this year, the Capitol got struck by lightning, like right at the same time as the tower that they built to replace the World Trade Center got struck.
Yeah.
And somewhere else, like all three of them got struck at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. And when I saw that, that was the first thing I thought of was that Bad Brains logo.
Yeah. The Capitol building struck by lightning.
Where have I seen that before?
Uh-huh. I've got it on a t-shirt.
The Big Takeover.
Yeah.
Interesting. Anyways.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts about 92?
No, that was pretty much it. I mean, I graduated from high school.
Way to go. Woohoo.
Never had to think about it again.
Did you ever have high school dreams?
No.
I had them for a long time.
I think I was just like so relieved to be out of there. And I remember like I didn't even want to go to graduation, but like mom was like, if you don't go, like you'll always regret it, blah, blah, blah. And like I remember I was sitting next to and then like one person away on the other side from like two guys that I went to like kindergarten with. And it's like I had friends in high school and like I'm still friends with a bunch of them today. But like I remember like sitting in like the folding chairs out on the field for graduation and like looking to my left and looking to my right, and like it was like not even a second. It was like I'm never gonna see these people again. And it wasn't like a yacht rock like golden years BS. It was like I never have to involuntarily be around any of these people again.
Oh man.
It was like I am never going to see a bunch of these people ever again. And it was like this wave of like relief that it was just like, yeah, all this BS and like
I can go
this,
do something else now.
Yeah. All this crap I had to deal with. It's just like, nope, never have to be there against my will ever again.
Yeah, as soon as I found out I had enough credits and passing grades, I was out. That was it. And I didn't go to graduation, and I just like moved on.
Yeah.
Moved down to Petaluma, and
I wish I had done that.
just was like done. But because of that, I never got my diploma.
Mm-hmm.
And I would always have these dreams about high school that, did I really graduate? Because I don't have any proof of it.
Right.
You know, and like, you know, I went to the JC and used that to transfer into college. So it didn't really kind of matter anymore. But it's like, did I really graduate? I mean, they told me I graduated, but did I really?
Right.
You know, I don't have any
like,
proof of it.
He's finally gone.
Yeah. So finally I
He's not saying
decided.
anything. Like what's the Milton from Office Space? Oh, we just fixed the glitch. Like, oh, so he doesn't, so you fired him. No. Like, we just fixed the glitch.
I mean, eventually I called and asked them to send me my diploma.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, yeah, okay, sure. Never came. So still don't have it. Still don't really know, but it's like, I don't know. I have my degree and all that. So then I'm retired. So it doesn't really matter anymore.
Right.
But it's like,
But
I don't know. It's like
it's your permanent
unfinished.
record.
It feels a little bit like unfinished business.
Yeah. Well, for my new job, I'm going to have to get my diploma or a copy of it for my driving instructor license. Like, so I never got mine because I wasn't going to have enough credits to graduate because I had this English teacher who was a total prick. She was like in the process of failing me. And so I wasn't going to have enough credits to graduate. And I was going to have to go to summer school. But the last semester, they had, I don't know, somebody pushed some funding through and they had like computers in the classroom. And it was like they had 3 of them and they were over in the corner. And we could do extra credit and do these like computerized book reports for extra credit. So I just like, okay, well, I'm just going to do a bunch of these because like I hate all the books that she makes us read, and like all the reports like she makes us do are just like totally stupid. And like she's a terrible teacher. But like if she's going to give me extra credit for this, like I'll get enough credits to like pass her class. Like she can't fail me if I do like 200% credit for this class. I don't know. I remember her having like all these conversations with me about like what a loser I was. And it was just like, you know, I was a kid and like taught to like not have a sass mouth and like talk back to teachers and stuff. But it was just like, oh man, like if I had been off the leash back then, like it would have been a completely different situation. But yeah, but it was like growing up, having a love of reading and then like being a nerd as I was older. Like I read a ton of stuff that like we never read in her class, like just on my own as a person who loved reading and loved English. And
yeah,
so it was
like took the love out of it.
Okay, like I'll go to this computer to find the affirmation that like I'm a good student. And so it's like I just did like, I don't even know, like 20 of these book reports.
Oh man.
And just
so
like
she couldn't flunk you.
Yeah, so she couldn't flunk me because I had so much extra credit. Yeah, because I like, you know, read 1984 when I was a kid and read all these other books. It was like, yeah, okay. I love reading, but you're a terrible teacher.
Oh man. Yeah, there's some of them out there.
Yeah, and it's like if you had just like had us write essays, like I had Jean DeSoto last year. Like I could have written essays like in my sleep. But no, you had us do these like things that weren't essays. Like you're not preparing us for college at all. College or being an adult. And it was like, ugh, you suck. No wonder I'm failing your class. So long story short, my diploma wasn't ready at the time of graduation. And so
because you were kind of on the fence.
Yeah. So I got like they give you that little folder thing. Like
mine was empty.
Mine was empty.
Oh man.
And then it was just like, I just never gave a crap. So it's like, yeah, maybe there was some paperwork error, or maybe she went to the administration and was like, I don't care how much extra credit he has. Fail him.
My whole context of these birthday episodes was music from the year we graduated high school.
Mm-hmm.
And we get here to the end of the episode.
And maybe neither of us graduated high school. And see, like our favorite music from 2024 was last year. We can't get our GEDs right now and have that as our graduation episode. We'd have to do another one.
Oh, man.
We're further away from when we started.
Okay. I'm going to share my honorable mentions now.
Okay. Yeah. The only other one, I listened to a ton of Black Sabbath.
Oh, yeah.
My friend Josh, that was also into Kiss, we listened to a ton of Black Sabbath, like Ozzy era Black Sabbath. Yeah, but it's like we've talked about Sabbath so much on the podcast that it was like, okay, this list is already getting pretty long.
Yeah, we'll cover them again, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So 1992 was interesting for me because usually I just like listen to old music, like 70s and 60s and like old proto-heavy stuff or punk stuff. But around this time, I became friends with Dale Kraske, and we were both into hi-fi. And so he was turning me on to like lots of new like punk type stuff at the time. And also I was going out with Cheryl, who worked at the Last Record Store. And yeah, we were living together. And so she would always bring CDs home. So I was exposed to like a lot of new music, which wasn't something that I always sought out.
Right.
So this list is some of what I heard on the radio, some of the new music that came out that I really liked at the time. And so these are all albums that came out sometime in 1992. So one is the debut album from Rage Against the Machine.
Oh, yeah.
I really liked Neurosis at the time because they were kind of like a punk band. You know, they'd play Gilman or the Phoenix or something. And they had an album called The Word is Law, which is a really cool album.
Oh, yeah.
So Neurosis, SDP Core and Alice in Chains Dirt both came out in 1992.
Yep.
King's X came out in 1992.
Not familiar.
Flotsam and Jetsam Quattro came out. Helmet Meantime, which you already mentioned.
Yep.
Sepultura Arise. Iron Maiden's Sphere of the Dark album came out in 92.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't into Iron Maiden back then. I don't know why.
And Dream Theater, Images and Words came out in 92.
Cool.
Which is probably too proggy for your tastes. But
a little bit.
So then some of the like kind of alternative-y stuff that came out was Sugar, Copper Blue. Great record. Overwhelming Color Fast, their self-titled debut album, came out in 92. Those are both great albums. So some of the kind of punky stuff that came out then was All Percolator.
Oh, yeah, I remember All.
So All was basically the Descendants without Milo. But I've been kind of listening to them more. Like I always listen to the Descendants, but I've been revisiting some of the All albums, and they're all pretty good. Let's see. Dirt Clod Fight, Everything That Isn't. It's another band Dale turned me on to.
Oh, yeah.
Along with NoFX. They had 2 albums come out that year. NoFX, The Longest Line, White Trash, Two Heebs and a Bean. It's probably one of their better albums, if you like that kind of stuff. Body Count. The Body Count album came out. Speaking of heavy and hip-hop mixing together. Then there's some Black Crowes, Southern Harmony and Musical Companion came out in 92. Great watershed album. Some heavy stuff from 92. Caius, Blues for the Red Sun came out in 1992. Nice. And Sleep's Holy Mountain came out in 1992.
Yeah. Talk about groundbreaking.
Yeah. And then also like a big kind of influence in my life was like musically was from hanging out with Doyle, and the Archangels debut album came out in 92, and like some great songs on there. So Stevie Ray Vaughan passed away in 1990, and then Double Trouble became the rhythm section for Archangels with Doyle and Charlie Sexton. Great band, great album. And it was just like, oh, wow, somebody I know has a record deal. It's like,
right.
This is cool.
Yeah.
So,
I almost put the Fabulous Thunderbirds, speaking of the Vaughan brothers.
Oh, yeah.
Almost put the Fabulous Thunderbirds on the playlist because I did listen to them because you had gotten me into them.
Yeah, I listened to a lot of them back then. Let's see. And then two groups or songs that I liked that actually were pop hits back then. Lucinda Williams' Sweet Old World album came out. But I liked, it was a hit. It was Vanessa Williams' Best for Last. I mean, I'm not the biggest Vanessa Williams fan, but I don't know. She was kind of in her prime then. And then also with the hip hop stuff, another one to mention that was kind of big that year was TLC.
Oh, yeah.
I was kind of into TLC back then. Like,
yeah.
Even though I was like too cool, I don't know. TLC was cool,
yeah.
But that song Baby, Baby, Baby has like the most babies in it, I think, of any song. But that song is pretty dope.
It is. Yeah, they were always good. And then they were all pretty cute too.
Well, they had that album Crazy Sexy. No, what was it?
Cool.
Crazy Sexy Cool. Yeah. So we know who the crazy one was.
Right.
We know who the cool one was. And the sexy one is the one that I always thought was sexy. But yeah, TLC.
Yep.
I still like them. I don't know. One of my guilty pleasures, it's like.
Yeah, they live rent free in my heart for sure.
Yeah, like you're a little bit embarrassed. It's like.
Not really.
Well, I mean, like not listening to them, but like going to the record store to buy the record.
Yeah, especially then. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's like going to the drugstore to buy or something.
It's like the clerk probably doesn't care, but you feel more.
Yeah, a little bit judgy.
Seen. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's my list. If you like any of the stuff on there, like there's going to be some picks on there. I'll make a bonus playlist to go with this one.
Nice.
Then we'll have Clark do the same for 1985 stuff.
I don't think there's really going to be a whole lot. Like I was 11. We kind of covered all the music that I was into on the cartoon theme song.
In 85?
Yeah.
Well, there's probably music that came out in 85 that you like still kind of listen to.
Yeah, that I listen to now. Yeah, I'll do it that way.
Yeah.
Rather than what I was actually listening to in 85. Like stuff from 85 that I like now. Yeah, that'll work.
Right. Also a shout out to our buddy Tristan. The Stereo MCs Connected came out in 1992.
Nice.
There's like a lot of neo soul kind of stuff coming out.
Yeah. Yeah, the 90s were good for that.
Stereo MCs Connected is like one of the better examples of like a cool song with like just like a really solid groove. And then like the opposite end of that spectrum would be the aforementioned Sophie B. Hawkins, Damn, I Wish I Was Your Lover.
Oh, man.
But it's not terrible. I can appreciate someone that would have that as one of their guilty pleasure songs. But for me, there's just something about it that like, I don't know, if you watch the video, like they have this white girl that's like not a great singer. And then they have like all these like great backup singers who are black women. And it's like, okay, why is she the artist? Like, why aren't we listening to these great backup singers instead of this like kind of mediocre one-hit wonder singer? But I don't know. And just the groove of it, it's like a little too contrived and like too like hip cool. It's like, oh yeah, I love Sade. Hey, we could write a song like that. No, you can't.
Oh, man.
But anyways, that's what we were listening to in 92. A lot of it still holds up.
Yeah. I mean, I still listen to Bad Brains.
Like I know you said 92. There was a lot of bad music in 92. This is a weird time. The whole 90s was a weird time. But there were some like peak bangers like back then too. Like
true.
Especially like I don't think everything on your list came out in 92, but like
No, some of it came out way earlier.
Yeah, like just, thinking about Bad Brains and White Zombie again. It's like, is there any other band that can scratch that White Zombie itch?
I don't know, probably. But they're not going to do it as well.
Right.
Yeah, I think...
It's like, why would I listen to this when I could just be listening to White Zombie when I want that? Right.
Yeah, I think the only things that on the playlist that actually came out in the 90s were Faith No More, Jane's Addiction, and White Zombie. So,
yeah.
Like I said, I really wanted Helmet on there, but I was like, nope.
Post-graduation.
Doesn't match up. Timeline doesn't match up.
That's for our postgraduate episode.
Yes.
We will do a 60s, 70s, actually 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. We will do some decade episodes, but we'll spread those out.
Yeah, we won't do decade Decembers.
No.
Yay, another theme month.
December.
Oh.
Okay. We don't have...
I was just going to say what's on the docket, but you seem...
We don't have anything on the docket.
Oh.
The only thing we have on the docket for March is we're doing a Ireland 2 episode for St. Patrick's Day.
Mm-hmm.
And that will be any kind of Irish music. Doesn't have to... It's not a locality one.
Right.
It's just Irish...
Celtic.
Thing. Could be Irish bands. Could be American bands that play Irish music.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be on the 17th. But for episode 30, I don't know. Do you want to make an executive decision here?
Sure.
Should we go back to some convincers? Should we do a genre, an artist?
I don't know. I feel like I've bogarted the last 2 episodes. Why don't we do a convincer where you're at the helm?
Okay. So convincer would be either a genre or an artist. Yeah, I'd say like Shuggy Otis, James McMurtry, or Power Pop. Or I could do Lemon Twigs if you're up for Lemon Twigs.
Sure. I
talk about them all the time. It might be good just get them out of the way.
Get them out of your system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I liked what you've shown me already. So,
Flaming Groovies, Shuggy Otis, Flaming Groovies, Lemon Twigs, or Larry McMurtry.
It's up to you.
We'll go with Lemon Twigs.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Lemon Twigs are great. Okay, so episode 30, I'll be convincing Clark that the Lemon Twigs are one of the greatest contemporary bands on the current music scene.
Okay.
And that their old stuff is totally worth listening to. And that their even older stuff is even worth checking out.
All right. I can't wait.
As usual, everybody have a great week. And thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Bye.
Checking out music with my bro. Willing to dig it, yes or no? Here we go on with the show. The Hell Bro Podcast.
We're supposed to be in there.
No, you're not.
My girlfriend's in there.
Hey, a lot of people's girlfriends are in there.
Denied.
Don't be so shy. We'll look forward to it.
Well, you never know.
Hi, where are you from? I'm from Wilmette. I'm from Cicero. Isn't it cool to be downtown? Hey, are you those 2 guys who have that TV show in Aurora?
Wayne's World?
Wayne's World.
Wayne's World.
Party time.
No.
Oh, you guys sure look like them.
Look, if Wayne says we're not, okay?
Okay. How long does it take for you to get here from Aurora? It takes me 40 minutes door to door. My gave me $1 and dropped me off at the park and ride.